Welcome to For Good Measure, an interview series celebrating diverse composers and other creative artists. I'm Nanette McGuinness, Artistic Executive Director of Ensemble for these times. In this week's episode, we're joined by guest violinist Mia Nardi-Huffman. Welcome, Mia, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here, Nanette. That's great.
We've really enjoyed having you play with us, and we're very much looking forward to having you join us again when we tour to the East Coast.
Yes, me too. Can't wait.
Yeah, so let's get started here. Tell me about your musical path.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I was a very musical kid, very musical, like young child, but my parents could never afford a piano in the house and private lessons. It was just so expensive. So I did, choir, little kid things through my school. And when I reached third grade, my public school actually had a free strings program. You could learn violin, viola, cello for free. And I remember running off of the school bus with my permission slip to play the violin. I actually don't remember why I chose the violin. I know they demonstrated all the instruments to us, but I know that I was single-mindedly focused on playing the violin. And I said, Mom, with my permission slip, like, I can play the violin. And she was so excited. And so that's how I got my start. I was 8. And after about a year, my school teacher reached out to my parents and said, I think we've got something here.
And they were right.
Yes. And very thankful for that. And they reached out to my parents and I started private instruction. And being that I'm from the New York area, then a lot of that started being funneled into Manhattan. So even though I grew up in Connecticut, I was spending my weekends in the city. Yeah. So I did Mannes Pre-College and New York Youth Symphony and was very lucky to study with Shirley Givens and with her teaching assistant, Akiko Silver. And I got my start here in New York where I live.
Yeah.
Yeah, which was wonderful. And then actually I applied only to Juilliard when I was I know, it's really audacious. When I was a senior in high school, I was like, if I don't get into Juilliard, I'm taking a year off and I'm just going to see what happens. And spoiler alert, I didn't get in on my audition. But I actually loved taking a gap year. I got to study with Shirley Givens, practice. I was almost like a monk. I was working out every day, eating the same food every day, and practicing for like 5 or 6 hours a day.
Wow.
Yeah. And at the end of that year, I got into the San Francisco Conservatory with Bettina Musamelli, and that's ultimately where I went. And I'm very happy for that. She is an exceptional teacher, and that school was a really good fit for me. It's small. It's in a really arts-focused city. I love the Bay Area. So I ended up there. And then after 4 years, I kept going. So I got my master's. I call people who did that at SFCM lifers.
Yep.
And actually, while I was doing my master's, I met Margaret Haubig, who's in Ensemble for these times. And there was an opening for a violinist in a new music ensemble called, at the time, Wild Rumpus. It's now called Ninth Planet. And I had been playing in the new music ensemble at SFCM as a grad student, and I was recommended just to join for one concert. And I did that, and I just fell in love with everybody there, and I loved new music, which I had never thought I would have said when I was 20 or 21. But it was perfect timing. I loved the music, loved the people. So after I finished grad school, I went mostly in that direction of playing new music.
Mm-hmm.
And I formed my string quartet, the Estrellas Chamber Collective, and we mostly were focusing on new music, sometimes throwing a little, Beethoven or Piazzolla in the mix, but a lot of music and focusing on LGBTQ and BIPOC composers as well.
Mm.
And after 13 years in the Bay Area, I moved back to the East Coast, and nowadays I would say 50% of my performance time is very classically based, and the other 50% I play rock and roll. I never would have been even able to conceive of that kind of career path for myself as a kid.
Yeah.
I always loved Led Zeppelin and AC/DC and like these, rock bands.
Yeah.
And I always loved classical music and the violin. And I couldn't conceive of how those two things would ever really intertwine. But about a year and a half ago, I won an audition for a group called the Emo Orchestra. Which is a direct confluence of both of those interests of mine. So I do national tours, playing alongside rock bands, but playing on the violin with sheet music, in an orchestra setting. And it's a lot of fun. So about half the time I do that kind of music. And then the other half of the time I'm playing mostly contemporary chamber music. But yeah, that's my musical path.
Well, that's a great path. And I have to say, on the one hand, when one thinks of a string joining rock, one thinks of cello, Linkin Park or
Sure.
whatever.
Yeah.
Right? So it's nice to hear that other strings can
Yeah.
join the party.
That's so true. There was this band called Apocalyptica. I don't know if you ever heard of them. They were, when I was in high school, they were kind of big amongst classical musicians. They did like metal covers on cello, and they wore cello on straps and everything. And I thought it was the coolest thing. But that really is the first time that I saw strings in rock and heavy rock music. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and we needed a violinist because we don't have violin in our core ensemble.
Yeah.
But we do a lot of work with piano trio, and more the group is changing into piano trio that also has a soprano, and we do mix and match. But Margaret, what she said to me when we were needing a violinist for this particular concert, she was like, she loves new music. She's a new music maven. She's really good at it. Wait till, and I was like, okay.
Yeah. And that's so true. I grew up loving Romantic era music, and I thought, as a string quartet musician, that was really the path that I was going to go down. And then I just happened to do the new music ensemble at the conservatory, and Nicole Pema is the music director at the time. And first of all, great to have a conductor that's a woman. It's so inspiring, and she's brilliant and amazing.
Yeah.
And the music that she picked was so fantastic. And I realized that there was this entire other world with my instrument, sounds that I could have never even conceived of. I've played pieces where I use styrofoam as a bow, or I've stopped on just things you never would have thought of, and it opened up that world for me, and I've never looked back. I just love it. So I'm glad that she recommended me.
that's we are too. But one of the interesting things about all these conversations, and at this point we've had a number, is I wouldn't say the random chance, but more kind of the universe pushing things together. And many musicians have this moment where something is thrown in their path, and ka-chung, their life changes, and that's the direction they go. Or even the instrument is thrown at them, or whatever. I mean, in your case, clearly you don't remember why, but the violin was like, this is me, I have to play this. And you've had a couple of those moments in your that you just described. So it's interesting.
It is, yeah. I feel very lucky that violin was the instrument for me, also because I never grew past like 5 feet tall. So if I had chosen, the viola or the cello, it would have been a disaster.
What if you chosen the double bass?
I know. Could you imagine? That would have just been like hopeless. So I really lucked out in many ways.
Or even percussion, to be honest, because you'd be running a lot harder than anybody else that you were working with.
Very true.
Although I do know short percussionists, so I know it's possible.
It is possible, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to For Good Measure, and a special thank you to our guest, Mia Nardi-Huffman, for joining us today. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to our podcast by clicking on the subscribe button, and support us by sharing it with your friends, posting about it on social media, and leaving us a rating and a review. To learn more about E4TT, our concert season online and in the Bay Area, or to make a tax-deductible donation, please visit us at www.e4tt.org. This podcast is made possible by grants from the California Arts Council, the San Francisco Arts Commission, Grants for the Arts, and generous donors like you. For Good Measure is produced by Nanette McGuinness and Ensemble for These Times, and designed by Brennan Stokes, with special thanks to co-producer and audio engineer Stephanie M. Neumann. Remember to keep supporting equity in the arts, and tune in next week for Good Measure.